Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another EVE Echoes update video. Today we're going to be looking at the launch preview that the developers dropped yesterday, which is to say June the 4th, 2020, on how Echoes is going to prevent script cheats. Now, this is something you really should be interested in, as they have changed a lot of what we thought we knew about Alpha and Omega clones. They've listened to feedback and there have been some big changes that I will cover later on. Now, this is a thoughts and analysis video. If you somehow didn't catch that from the title or the thumbnail, and you're going to complain that, oh, I don't want to listen to you talk for 20 minutes about what's going on here, there is a link to the image and what we're talking about here in the description below. Click that, sod off, stop complaining. For those of you who want the thoughts and analysis though, stay tuned. Now, of course, do let me know if you enjoy this video by hitting like on it. It's actually really helpful with YouTube's algorithm if you do hit like, so please, if you can, please do that for me. Otherwise, consider subscribing to the channel for all things mobile gaming and more EVE Echoes content. And of course, let me know what kind of topics you'd like to see me cover in future videos, either by commenting down below or by finding me on social media, including the Catskull Cartel Discord. Now, even if you're not going to be joining the Catskull Cartel come the launch of EVE Echoes, you are still welcome on that Discord to talk about it. The actual corporation channels will be private. Anyway, that said and done, let's talk about the launch preview. Now, what I'm going to do here is essentially I'm going to read through most of this, then explain what that means and what my opinions are going forward on that. So, dear pilots, EVE Echoes is officially launching in 2 months. It's actually about 70 days, it's anticipated. If you go by the App Store's expected of August 13th, that's 71 days away from now. And the entire devs team is working tirelessly to present you with the best version of EVE Echoes that we can create. Between now and the official launch, we will be hosting a launch preview segment to share our development process with our beloved community. At the same time, we welcome you to provide feedback and suggestions to the content we've posted. Best way to do that is to get onto the EVE Echoes official Discord, again, link in the description, head to the suggestions channel and give polite, constructive feedback. If you're rude and abusive, you're not going to have your point heard. Depending on the reception of the feedback, we may host another AMA on Discord to answer your most pressing questions, as well as engage in discourse with our community. It's always great to see how just hooked in these developers are. They want to be talking with us, want to be getting our information, and they're going to be doing a lot more of these launch previews, which is great news for me because it means more content. So here, the first one, how to counteract and resolve script cheats to ensure the most optimized experience for all. So how script cheats work. If you're not familiar with the term script cheating, ultimately this is kind of like running a bot. And it says here that it takes 30 minutes from creating a new character to finishing the tutorial. Afterwards, a bot could be enabled to begin producing ISK. For example, simple encounters, basic missions can earn between 10,000 and 30,000 ISK. The average time to finish a mission is normally less than 5 to 30 minutes in high security, all of which can't be interrupted by other players. Therefore, if you just do the math on that, that would work out at about 7,200,000 ISK per day, which, as you can see from the image here, when you look at getting a couple of cheap phones, and you just set up a load of bots on it, yeah, could be problematic. Now, the idea of this is that ultimately what you would do is you would create a load of different accounts on separate phones, have them all just basically running these bots 24 hours a day, 7,200,000 ISK per bot. Now, if you then extrapolate, call that 5,000, just for, like, you know, you've got a really bad bot. Call that 5 million, sorry, and then extrapolate that out across 10 devices. That's now 50 million a day that you're earning for doing nothing. And you can just get those bots to then drop that stuff off to you. And that's kind of what it goes on to here. All productions in the game can be traded. Exchanging between ISK and Plex can accumulate resources to one account with ease. You can quite easily have 10 accounts and funnel it all into one. There's no transaction limit, and the transactions can be done immediately, and bots can be created without limitation and can gain profit in the game. I've got a little graphic here just to show how that works. You create a new character, you set up planetary interaction, you earn ISK with your encounters, and you accumulate the revenues and abandon the character. Theoretically, this means you can just have a bot running backward and forward, gathering as much ISK as it can in a short period of time, which is then deleted before it gets found out, at which point you then just start up another one. As you can see, the process is a grave issue. This poses a grave issue, sorry. While real players are playing hard and taking risks in the game, the bots are mining without interference and making a hefty profit by selling their products in real money. Literally, these are the guys, if you remember, the old gold farmers back in World of Warcraft, that kind of thing. Those, you know, come join our website, 1 million gold for $10 or whatever, that kind of thing. Real world money transactions, RMT. That's what we're discussing here, and these are horrifically damaging to games like this. Now, the idea here is that it says making a hefty profit by selling their products in real money. Eventually, cheaters and bots will ruin the economy. It does, because gold suddenly has no in-game value. ISK has no in-game value, but it has dollar value instead in a hardcore way. And all the materials that these guys are using to get that ISK just get undercut, and it rips the market apart. There are people who can do much better descriptions and analysis on why gold farming and RMT is the death knell of games like this, but especially one with like EVE, it is a huge problem. Certain challenges stand in the way of the developers. It's challenging to distinguish between a real player and a bot, yes. Our developers and operators may not be able to ban bots in their products in time. That's a key point. In time. By time the bots have been set up and are doing the damage, it's already too late. You need to catch these early, or better yet, that old saying, prevention is better than cure? Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Our preparations, adding restrictions to Alpha Clone. Now, as an attempt to prevent cheaters and bots from utilising Alpha Clone as their means of misconduct, we have set restrictions to Alpha Clone under the premise that these changes will not affect the overall gaming experience for real players. Now, the newly implemented cans and can'ts are as follows. Now, pause, I'm going to come to that bit in a moment. An important point here is that ultimately, this is what we were saying during the one before. I was talking about Alpha and Omega, that by restricting certain things to behind a $5 paywall, you pay $5 to basically activate your account, and then you just play for free after that. That deters RMT, because that's $5 out of their actual profit that they're going to be making. And since every bit of ISK that they make in-game is then going to be sold in RMTs, they're going to have to keep paying that $5 every month in order to keep that stuff going. That was the idea of Alpha and Omega clones before, that you pay $5 once and it kind of keeps going because your transactions are legitimate and being funneled into the game, whereas people who are trying to create multiple accounts would have to pay $5 on each of those accounts to make them work, and then would ultimately, that cuts into profits. It becomes it becomes undesirable. It's not a good marketplace for those RMTs. They sod off elsewhere. Now, there have been changes. Now, what Alpha Clone can do. Alpha Clones will have full access to the Interstellar Trade Center ITC and immerse themselves in the player-driven market of EVE. Congratulations, everyone. The developers have listened. They have changed things up. As an Alpha Clone player, you will now have full, unfettered access to the ITC market. You will be able to sell, you'll be able to buy, you'll be able to do everything that you want. Alpha Clones will have full access to the items in corp hangars and are able to accept help from corporation members. This means that if you go into a corporation and the corporation says, yeah, sure, we allow our players to take stuff from the hangars, you can take stuff from the corporation hangars as an Alpha Clone member. That's huge, and that's big news for me, as we'll cover in a future video. Alpha Clones can have full access to planetary interaction, industry, combat encounters, and is able to team up with friends. Yes, industry and market are no longer locked behind Omega. If you wanted to play the game for free using an Alpha Clone only and have industry and marketeering, you now can. Huzzah! Praise be to the developers. Seriously, thank you so much to NetEase for listening to us, listening to the feedback on that one, and taking that on board. That is great news going forward. Now, what can Alpha Clones not do? Now, Alpha Clones are denied access to the regional market and contracts due to the reason that they're not public and easy to cheat on. This means you cannot you cannot fulfill contracts as an Alpha Clone, which makes sense, because the point there is that you set up a bot to go harvesting all of this stuff, and then it just sells all of that stuff to you at dirt cheap. You put up a contract for, say, oh, I want to buy 1 million of this ore for 1 ISK, and the bot then fulfills it for you. It's easy to cheat on it. Alpha Clones are unable to store items into corporation hangars to prevent the possibility of having a bot corp to accumulate resources, i.e. again, you have those 10 bots set up, and those 10 bots just drop everything off in a corporation hangar. Someone higher up that corporation then just takes everything out and sells it and does it that way. Great way to get around that. However, Alpha Clone accounts are normally newcomers, as they may need help from Corp members. Therefore, taking items from the Corp hangar would not be restricted. Obviously, when you're setting up a corporation, you can choose who can and can't take stuff from your Corp hangar anyway, but it's not a restriction the developers see is useful in combating RMT. So, the kind of rundown of this is that you now can do industry, you can do planetary interaction, combat encounters, etc, 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 and you've got full unfettered access to the full market in as an alpha clone. What you can't do, however, is fulfill contracts, nor can you drop stuff off in a corporation hangar. I assume the same is going to be sort of like, the case there. That makes sense. That makes sense. This is all due to combating RMT, so huzzah. Our operators are monitoring the economic 24/7 in search of bots. Our programmers are continually analysing the features of bots to fight back against even the most well-disguised bots. This means they actually have a dedicated team set to watching the economy. That is huge. That's really, really good news as well. RMT would utterly destroy a game like EVE Echoes, so the fact that they are dedicated to stomping that out is a really, really good sign. They've given us the access that we wanted, and instead they've put a system in place that means they shoulder most of that responsibility. That's amazing. That is truly amazing, and kudos to CCP and NetEase both for taking that stance. And then we have the Empire Bank Audit. This is incredible. The audit system is developed by State and Region Bank and Bank of Luminaire from Caldari and Galente. It provides resources for auditors of EVE Echoes to strike back the hidden bots among us. EVE Echoes will remain compliant with the policy of the two banks, certain kinds of transactions of items and ISK will be audited. So they will audit suspicious trading in the market, and you'll see how they define suspicious in a moment, suspicious trading in the contracts, jettisoning of valuable items, and taking valuable items from the corp hangar. So if they see lots of stuff like that going on, they will be monitoring it and they can audit. And if it's anything like a real world audit, it means they will have power to freeze accounts. Now, they've said that they will not audit the following: storing of valuable items to the corp hangar, because only people with Omega clones can actually do that anyway, and fair trading in the market with fair trading in the contracts as well. That means ultimately what we're looking at here is that anything that is deemed as fair will not be audited, whereas the stuff at the top there, they will be keeping an eye on, as that is the stuff that they see as being exploitable. Now, if we look in the image down here, this is not real code. That's not actual game code. It's just an idea of how that code could look. So you've got here, like, calculation lock time from trade is Omega is Omega. The program is used for trade chat. It has two sides of traders. Trader A goods and ISKs, Trader B goods and ISKs. Looks to see if there are Omega clones, controls the lock time, larger the value, the shorter the lock time, units and hours times floor. There's a lot to go over there. It's beyond my remit, really, as a programmer. But ultimately, it says here, it's just a way that it could look at like how quickly the duration of a transaction is for audits, because something that is like an instantaneous transaction does look a little bit dodgy in that kind of situation. Rules for the audit. The bank staff is working on distinguishing human players and bots. As the technique advances, the audit time on players will gradually decrease. The minimum audit time is 1 hour and the maximum is 30 days. I assume that's sort of like an account freeze, or at least a bank freeze. The items can't be moved or used during the audit time. There we go. The ISK in audit is temporarily frozen, yet players can choose to view the process in the audit wallet. If we confirmed that the items or ISK are indeed from human players, the audit status would conclude ahead of time. Now, they do say here at the top there that obviously at the start this will be a little bit rougher, as the process does refine itself down and gets used to, like, if the bot starts flagging a whole ton of situations, and when you break those situations down, almost all of particular situation A ends up being an erroneous flag, then, the bot can stop worrying too much about those things. Now, when a trader of higher asset value, often the sender, transfers items or ISK to a trader of lower asset value, the items in question may go under audit. So if I'm sitting there with like massive amounts of stuff on me, and I'm trading stuff to you at ridiculously low value, then that flags. That flags. If I'm sitting there on billions and billions of ISK, and I'm selling you stuff for dirt cheap, the game's kind of going, well, how did you get rich, and why are you doing transactions like that? If the value of the items or ISK in question exceeds the threshold set by the system, the items in ISK will be frozen and an audit will be performed. Items of lower value won't be audited and can be traded freely, and the formula and calculation of the audit are shown in the image above. Again, it's not the exact, but we've got a good idea of what that could be. Again, I'll let people with more coding knowledge than I have a look at that. We're also trying to implement two-factor authentication, which would be awesome, based on the telephone number. If implemented, we will remove certain limitations on the alpha clone. That means things like perhaps contracts could be locked behind Omega unless you have two-factor authentication as well, in order to basically say, hey, look, we know that you're a real player because we've got phones and phone lines and all that set up to sort that out. I know a lot of people are going to be going, oh, give me a Chinese company my phone number. I'm sure there will be a lot of data protection involved in that. NetEase are not stupid. They're not the Chinese government. There's a big difference there. These guys are developers trying to make a workable game that is a great experience for us all. We are endeavouring to eliminate script cheats and any other cheating methods that may present in EVE Echoes. This design, as described, is not final. You are more than welcome to leave your positive and constructive feedbacks below. They talking about this obviously on the Discord. Get onto the EVE Echoes Discord and you can leave positive and constructive feedback because these matter for us. Once again, we thank you for your continued support. And that's basically it. There is a lot of really cool stuff there to go over. The fact that they're hiring actual auditors to go over this is pretty sweet. The fact that alpha clones now have access to industry and the market, which they didn't before, I'm sure is going to go down as fantastic news for a lot of you. But of course, these are just my opinions. Let me know your thoughts, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below, or by coming and finding us on the Catskull Cartel Discord. Otherwise, folks, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!